Hi ladies, back at it again, take two. So I'm just gonna go through assessing your diastasis right now, and you can go ahead and go through workout number 1 on your own through the membership portal. It should have already been unlocked for you. If not, let me know and I will adjust it. For whatever reason, technology is not on my side these last couple of days. However, that's just a little side note. So if you're having trouble, if you're having trouble accessing the workout and the core tip for today, just let me know and I will get it unlocked for you. All right. So we had a lot of great questions earlier today in the first training that I did on Zoom. I don't know why it cut off at 3 or 4 minutes in. It is what it is. It was supposed to have recorded and downloaded to my computer, but it didn't happen. So now I'm hopping on with you right now. So what you're gonna need is just a space on the floor to assess your diastasis, and a yoga mat if you are on a hard floor. So if you want to grab that now, but three big takeaways that I want you to get from this assessment. First one, you are never going to be able to completely close your gap. There are all of these programs out there on the internet claiming that it will help you close your gap. They are focused more so on helping you minimize it, but in order to entirely close your gap, it's not usually the case. Most of us are walking around with some form of an abdominal separation. It just depends on what degree it is. Kids can actually have abdominal separation. Babies have abdominal separation for the first, I believe it's the first year or so of their life. Men can have abdominal separation, and it all comes down to, except for in the case of a baby, because the connective tissue is still coming together and developing, but for the most part, it all comes down to how your body and your core manage intra-abdominal pressure. So it's not just necessarily a woman thing, okay? It's a pressure thing. And you don't have to focus so much on closing your gap entirely. So if you are feeling nervous and concerned about closing your gap, I don't want you to feel that way, because it's not necessary to close it completely. We do want to minimize it a little bit more, but we also want to focus on improving the quality of your connective tissue. So you have connective tissue that runs from your pubic bone up to your sternum that holds your whole abdominal wall together. And during pregnancy, or when there's any time of an increase of intra-abdominal pressure, and that pressure is pushing down on the abdominal wall, or pushing out on the abdominal wall, it will cause that connective tissue holding your abdominal wall together to not come apart. It stretches, okay? So it stretches and it thins. So one of the main factors that we have to focus on with fixing your diastasis, and when we walk through assessing it, is you need to pay attention to what the quality of your connective tissue feels like when it's at rest, when you do a passive or an active test, just lifting your head and you're not engaging your core muscles, and what kind of difference happens when you engage your core muscles. Because most likely you'll find that and we're going to do this, when you check your diastasis passively, when you're just laying on the floor, and I'm just going to have you take your fingers and just go up and down from the sternum to your pubic bone, just to get an idea for what the quality of the connective tissue is, okay? And then we're going to notice how it changes, hopefully, and improves as you engage your deeper core muscles. And that's really what we're going for. We're going for learning how to engage your deeper core muscles so that it helps to bring the gap closer together, not close entirely, permanently, but if it does, when it contracts, that's good. But we're looking for how those deeper core muscles engage and how the connective tissue feels when you engage those deeper core muscles, so that your core can better manage intra-abdominal pressure and better support or more effectively support your pelvis and your spine, and create stability so that you can transfer force and movement throughout the rest of your body, and other places within your body don't have to compensate for the lack of core stability, okay? Because when your core is not strong and firing well and functioning well, your body likes to cheat. It will find the path of least resistance to get the job done. So when you don't have the core stability that you need, or that core foundation, your body will find other ways to create stability, meaning holding your breath, clenching your glutes all the time, maybe using your hip rotator muscles too much. So those are just some other things to look out for as well. There was one more thing that I wanted to point out about. Oh, this is another biggie. So I know that many of you are very concerned with fixing your diastasis and improving your core strength and function. I absolutely understand. But what I don't, and I mentioned this earlier, what I don't want you to stress about is how your diastasis changes from day to day, okay? It's not gonna be the same on a day-to-day basis. You know, some days it might be closed a little bit more, the connective tissue might feel better. Other days it might be open a tad bit more, the connective tissue might be a little squishier, and it could be from a number of reasons. It could be what's happening with your hormones. Are you about to get your period soon? Did you just get your period? It could be something that you ate that's causing your belly to bloat a little bit more, which is why I've given you the nutrition template that I've given you, because like I said, it's all about reducing intra-abdominal pressure. So the foods that you eat can very much increase the pressure within your abdomen. So that's why we are focusing on this week, and if you decide that you want to continue on with it, continuing to focus on foods that reduce inflammation within the body, because it's also huge for tissue healing as well. So don't obsess about what your diastasis is doing day to day. Like, yes, I want you to be more mindful of the movements that you're doing and the stress and strain that you're placing upon it. But when you go to assess your diastasis, give yourself about 2 weeks in between assessing your diastasis, or at least a week, to give yourself a chance to really work on your core recovery exercises and improving your lifestyle habits. Because the other thing is, and you may have heard me say this over and over and over again, so many programs out there are focused on just giving you a bunch of core exercises to do and claiming that these will fix your diastasis. Maybe they will, but we also have to take into account what your alignment looks like, how you're holding your body up on a daily basis, what your breathing techniques look like, which we're going to get into more tomorrow, and what kind of lifestyle habits you do that can very much determine how well your core heals postpartum. And other factors go into play with how well your diastasis can correct itself postpartum, okay? So before we get into assessing ourselves, does anyone have any questions? So just go ahead and leave them in the comments, type them in right now. I'm just gonna grab a quick sip of water. And if you have any questions, go ahead and post them in the comment box below. And if nobody posts anything, and if you think of something along the way, go ahead and just type it in, okay? So now let's get started. So, biggest thing, if you are very early postpartum, or you just feel like your core isn't as engaged as you want it to be, or the best way that I can explain it, because I felt like this after my, especially after my C-sections, is that your core just kind of feels like it's falling out in front of you. then we want to do as much as we can to help reduce strain and pressure on the abdominal wall. So that means as you are working on healing your core, you want to make sure that you are rolling into position when you are trying to get into positions on the floor, in bed, what have you. So you're going to roll into position from your side, and then when you want to get up, you roll to your side and use your upper body to help get you up, okay? And you don't have to do this forever, but just as you continue to improve the quality of your connective tissue and core engagement. All right, and that's another thing I don't want you to be worrying about all the time too. It's like, let's say you get up out of bed and you all of a sudden just do a quick sit up. Don't panic. It's okay. But if it's something that you do every day and your core is not re-strengthening as we need it to be, then you need to start taking inventory of the things that you're doing on a daily basis, especially when it comes to exercise. That's not helping you improve what's going on down here, okay? So now you're going to roll to your side, and then you're going to, and just let me know if you can see well enough. I can't see because all of the action going on in the feed, but so you're gonna get on your back, and then what I want you to do right now is you're gonna start with 2 finger widths. If you need to use more fingers, you're gonna go ahead and do 3. If you need 4, you can do that. And let's say that you have, you need to add another finger, you would just add more from the other hand, okay? But we're gonna start out, and starting here at your sternum, I just want you to, I want you to just press your fingers down into your core, and notice how far you can press your fingers down into your abdomen. So like for me, it's my connective tissue is very strong and taut here at the top between my sternum and in between my sternum and my belly button. When I get to right above my belly button and right below my belly button is when I can push my fingers, and actually like down here when I'm at rest, I actually need to add another finger, so it's like 3 finger width gap and I can press somewhat decently deep into my abdomen around my belly button. Another thing to understand is if you find that you have the most, the biggest separation and the deepest, or the most depth when you press your fingers in, when you get to your belly button, like either right above it, at the belly button, and just below, that is very, very normal. Sometimes this area is the last to come back on board when we're regaining our core strength and function, because this is where the most stretching and thinning of the connective tissue has happened. Because if you think about it, when you're pregnant, your belly gets stretched out here. So this is the area where the most stretching happens, okay? So again, you're going to run your fingers down your abdomen and just kind of notice what the quality of the connective tissue feels like and how deep you can press your fingers down. And you're going to go all the way down to your pubic bone, because remember that linea alba, that connective tissue between your abs, runs from your pubic bone all the way up to your sternum, okay? So go ahead and do that for me now. And then if you want to comment what you found when you were assessing yourself. Now, I called this just assessing yourself passively. So if you want to go ahead and just type it in the chat box, feel free. If not, we're going to keep on moving. And I'll look at all this stuff as we go along. Okay, the next part is, so now that we've done the passive test, and you know what everything feels like, now we're going to start seeing how things are potentially changing for us when we engage our core. But first, what I want you to do now is you're going to just lift your head up slightly off the floor, so it's a chin tuck. It's not a full crunch, okay? So it's just lifting your head only off the floor, and then from there, you're going to take your fingers So again, decide how many fingers you need to use to press in, and you're going to notice if things have changed. If the quality of your connective tissue feels different, feels the same, feels worse, feels stronger, just pay attention to that, okay? Notice how, the wide the separation is. Oh, somebody just... Passively is very soft and spongy. Forefinger by belly button, passive assessment, 1.5 knuckle seat. Okay, good assessment, ladies. All right, so now that you've done your chin tuck, just notice how things feel along that midline, okay? And then relax. Now the next piece, this active piece, I want you to take an inhale. So big inhale, exhale, and when you exhale, like you're breathing out, you're blowing out candles. So inhale, exhale, feel that pelvic floor lift up, feel your lower abs turn on. You're gonna hold that contraction, and then you're gonna do that gentle chin tuck, and now reassess yourself. So when I do this, everything is closed. My gap is completely closed. The connective tissue is like rock solid, except maybe my belly button's a little, like I have a tiny, tiny gap at my belly button, but the connective tissue is good. And remember, the quality of the connective tissue is what we are wanting to focus on even more than just closing the gap, okay? So tell me in the comments what you found when you did this. Now, if you found that the separation was smaller, connective tissue felt stronger, you didn't have to press your fingers down as deeply, this is a huge sign that you are on the right track, okay? And this is just a sign to let you know that your core is at a place where it's able to better manage intra-abdominal pressure, so it's better able to withstand the pressure that you're placing on it during, potentially during certain movements. Now, the other thing that we have to take into account, and again, not very many programs out there will tell you this, is, excuse me, you just have to, it's not just about assessing yourself on the floor, because it's very easy to get a reading as to what's happening here, but we have to take it to the next level. So we need to know and understand how our core is engaging in all different positions and movements. So you need to become a better detective of your body. Let me just check. Okay, 1.5 fingers at belly button, but still one. Okay, that's okay. Now you just, it takes time. It takes time to work on it, and doing the exercises that you need to do, the breathing techniques, which we'll work on more tomorrow, and paying attention to your alignment. And we're going to go through a lot of that later this week. So then I'm going to have you, so I want you all to take your beginning assessments today, and you may, I know it's only a week, but at the end of the week, I want you to then go ahead and reassess yourself, because if you are diligent, and even if you just do the core connection breathing that I will show you tomorrow, that can very much help strengthen the deeper core muscles, improve the integrity of your connective tissue, but it's just like working out. So if we want to see any strength gains when we're in the gym, or any muscle toning, we have to progressively overload our body so that we can see and feel improvements. The same thing happens when you are working on correcting your diastasis, is you have to progressively overload the tissues of the abdomen so that they can continue to strengthen and be able to withstand an increase in pressure from more demanding exercises and activities that you place on it down the line. So I hope that makes sense. But what I was gonna, I kind of went off on a tangent there, but what I wanted to tell you was, so it's not just about assessing yourself here on the floor. You need to start paying attention to how your core is responding, like how your diastasis is responding when you're in different positions. So go ahead and get your camera out. Take videos of how your core is responding when you do different exercises. So you can also do it on all fours, like, press in when you're passive, see how things feel, and then you do your big inhale, exhale, engage, and notice if it's firmer along your midline. Rebecca asked a great question earlier today, and she said that when she, and everybody's body is different and will respond differently to pressure. So she said when she is on her back and she is assessing and she does the active test, everything closes, connective tissue feels good. She feels like she's good to go. And this is the thing. She's good to go in that position. But then when she goes to stand up, she notices that she has more of a gap and the quality of the connective tissue changes. And so we need to work on, you start from the bottom and you work your way up. So you start with exercises possibly lying on your back, and then you move to being on all fours, and then you move to being like a half kneeling position, and then you move to being in a tall kneeling position, to the point where you're ultimately in a standing upright position, and you can know how to manage intra-abdominal pressure and engage your core so that you protect that diastasis or that abdominal separation, okay? So you just need to start paying attention to what is happening in different positions and exercises, because pressure on your back is much different than when you are on all fours, like in the case of doing a plank, or if you're standing up, or if you're hanging from a bar, so on and so forth. And you can tweak how well your core manages intra-abdominal pressure by different things, which, and I've already mentioned, like switching up your alignment, getting your rib cage stacked over your hips better. Okay, well you may need, so tissue firmer, assessing on all fours, good. And sometimes women need that little bit of gravity to help their body recognize that they need to engage their TVA more. But stomach pooches out. Okay, well, that could be two things. It could be just that the skin that you have left from baby, you still have that skin that just kind of sagged and it's not really pooching, but you could also have a pooch down the midline, and then a pooching where it starts on the outside of your abs and then coming in. So it's more of like a coning here at the midline. So it looks like this almost when you do, when you check your diastasis. And that could be a sign that you just need to work more on strengthening your core in that position and tweak your breathing mechanics. Take notice of how your pelvis is stacked over your rib cage. So I'm not going to mention names, but there is a very well-known physical therapist in the CrossFit world these days, and he is always telling women that they don't necessarily need to worry about neutral alignment and neutral position. And I agree with that to a point, but because I do believe that your body needs to be able to be in different positions and movements, because we can't live life in like this, rigid state all the time. We have to be able to flow with movement. But when you are working on healing your core and your pelvic floor, you've got to get yourself in a position where you have your rib cage stacked over your hips, so that because your core acts as a piston. On the inhale, all those muscles come down and expand to accommodate that increase in intra-abdominal pressure. On your exhale, everything comes back up and contracts. So you have to create that synchronicity with the breath, and that can really only effectively be done when you have your rib cage stacked over your pelvis. And we're going to go into that more. I feel like I have a little trouble assessing myself accurately because I still have a rather large layer of fat on top. Hold my. Will that change the depth? Yeah, I mean that can certainly change the depth assessment, because you have that extra layer of skin and tissue and fat on top of your abdomen. But like we talked about earlier today, Jennifer, when you go to contract and everything is tight, just take notes. Like, you can probably still push your fingers down through the fat layer, but then you'll get to a point where you can feel that connective tissue come together and get strong and taut. Does that help? Does that answer your question? Just let me know. Okay? So that is it for assessing yourself. So 3 big takeaways. You don't have to worry. Oh, before I sign off, I do want to say that most of us women who have taken the time to do some sort of recovery program for their core and their pelvic floor postpartum, when you've done the work and you've kind of tweaked things so that you can get everything working as it needs to be. Okay, no problem, Jennifer. But when you are putting in the time, doing the homework that you need to do to get your core back online, you'll get to a place where you have what is called a functional diastasis. So remember what I said in the beginning, that almost every woman who has had a child at some point is walking around with some form of a diastasis. And whether it is functional or non-functional is the key. So functional is when you engage your core, when you're able to engage your transverse abs, your pelvic floor, your diaphragm, and your multifidus muscles. These are the 4 muscles of your deep core. But mainly when you're able to engage your transverse abs enough so that the connective tissue gets stronger, the gap closes more, and your core is able to withstand pressure, meaning you're not holding your breath, you're not shaking violently, you're not trying to find other ways within your body to cheat and create a false sense of stability, like clenching your glutes, holding your breath. Those are the 2 biggies. Or like you're clenching your jaw a lot. That can be another sign of trying to create false instability. But when you are able to activate those core muscles, the connective tissue gets stronger when you do that. The gap closes a little bit more, and when you're in that setup in an exercise, then you have what is considered a functional core, as long as you're not shaking, holding your breath, there's no doming, coning, or bulging. And this goes for all exercises, okay? So you may be fine when you're on your back doing different exercises. Things may change when you go to all 4s. You may find it harder to engage your core when you're on all 4s, because again, you have gravity pulling against you. But like I said, every woman's body is different. So like with Nell, she felt more of an engagement when she was on all 4s, and that could be because she has the sense of gravity working against her a little bit more, so she has to work a little bit harder to engage her TVA. So it's just about learning how your body is responding in different positions, and then recorrecting or modifying or just switching things up so that your core is better able to manage intra-abdominal pressure in those positions. So I hope this all made sense, ladies. If you still have more questions, you can always post them in the comments below, but 3 big takeaways. You will most likely have some degree of an abdominal separation. It's not about closing the gap completely, and it's okay to have somewhat of a degree of separation. A 2 finger width to 2.5 finger width is considered normal, but there are lots of women walking around this world who have a 3 finger width gap, but their the quality of their connective tissue is on point, okay? So it's not about closing your gap completely. It's about getting to a place where you have a functional diastasis, And you don't have to worry about assessing your diastasis every single day. As you're going through this process of re-strengthening your core, have patience and stay consistent with your efforts in re-strengthening your core, so that when you assess yourself a few weeks out, you've given yourself a chance to create positive change, okay? So that is it for today. And any last minute questions before I sign off? Let me know. Okay, so remember, and I posted this earlier, so I'm going to be having a raffle every day. So today's raffle is a recipe pack of inflammation reducing smoothies, and like I mentioned, it's so important for you to be consuming foods that and having some type of a diet that is helping to reduce inflammation throughout the body. And I'm not saying you have to be perfect. I don't want you to be obsessing about food, but if you can, in general, create better habits so that you are reducing inflammation in your body and giving your body the best chance it has to heal. That's what's key. So I have a recipe pack of inflammation reducing smoothies to give away. So in order to be eligible for the raffle, I want you to answer the question that I leave in the group when we're done with this live. I also want you to post a picture or a video of you getting your core workout done. And the third thing, just because of the way things are in the world right now, it's crazy. And yes, I want all of us to be able to stand up for what is right and stand up for when injustice is being is happening in the world. But I also want you to walk your path and protect your energy. So let's work on practicing some gratitude to help foster more positive energy, and go ahead and leave 3 things in the group that you are grateful for. Okay, so that is it for today. Thank you all for joining. I'm so excited that you are all here. This week is going to be great, and I know you're going to get so much out of it. So that's it for tonight. I'll see you later. So you have until 12 p.m. tomorrow to get all those posts up and get your homework done in order to be eligible for the raffle. All right, so that's it, and I will see you later. Bye.